English taught me more than words. When I first started learning English, I thought it was just about memorizing vocabulary and understanding grammar rules. I thought if I could learn enough words and put them together correctly, I would be successful. But after years of studying this language, I have realized something important. English taught me much more than words. It taught me about life. It taught me about confidence. And most importantly, it taught me about persistence. The lessons I learned while studying English have shaped who I am today, far beyond my ability to speak another language. I remember my first English class. I was young, maybe 12 or 13 years old. The teacher walked into the room and wrote the alphabet on the board. A, B, C, D. It looked simple enough. But then she started speaking, and I could not understand a single word. The sounds were strange to my ears. The way her mouth moved seemed almost impossible to copy. I looked around the classroom and saw other students nodding, some even answering her questions. I felt lost. I felt small. That feeling of being lost stayed with me for a long time. But now I understand that feeling lost was actually the beginning of my journey. It was the first lesson English taught me. Everyone starts somewhere, and it is okay not to understand everything at first. In those early days, I struggled a lot. I would study for hours, writing the same words over and over again. Cat, dog, house, book. Simple words that seemed impossible to remember. I would practice pronunciation in front of the mirror, trying to make my mouth form sounds it had never made before. The d-eth sound was my enemy. I would say, "tank you" instead of "thank you," and feel embarrassed every time. My classmates sometimes laughed. Not in a mean way, but it still hurt. I started to believe that maybe I was not good at languages. Maybe some people were just born with the ability to learn English, and I was not one of them. But then something happened that changed my perspective. My teacher noticed I was struggling. One day after class, she asked me to stay behind. I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she sat down next to me and said something I will never forget. She said, "Learning a language is not about being naturally talented. It is about showing up every day and trying, even when it is hard." She told me that she had learned 3 languages in her life, and each one had been difficult at the beginning. She showed me her old notebooks, filled with mistakes and corrections. She said, "These mistakes are proof that I was learning. Your mistakes are proof that you are learning too." That conversation was the first time English taught me about persistence. I realized that giving up was easy. Anyone could give up when things got hard. But continuing, even when you felt like you were not making progress, that took real strength. So, I decided to keep going. I stopped worrying so much about making mistakes. I started seeing each error as a step forward, not a step back. When I said "tank you" instead of "thank you," I would laugh at myself, practice the correct way, and move on. Slowly, very slowly, things started to improve. As months turned into years, I noticed that learning English was teaching me patience. In our modern world, we expect things to happen quickly. We want instant results. We watch a video and expect to learn a skill in 10 minutes. But language learning does not work that way. You cannot become fluent in a month or even a year. It takes time. It takes thousands of hours of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. There were so many moments when I felt frustrated because I was not improving as fast as I wanted. I would study a grammar rule, think I understood it, and then completely forget it the next day. I would learn 50 new words and only remember 10 of them. But English taught me that slow progress is still progress. Every word I learned was one more word than I knew before. Every sentence I could speak was one more sentence than yesterday. I learned to celebrate small victories. The day I could introduce myself without hesitating. The day I understood a simple song on the radio. The day I read my first short story in English without using a dictionary. These moments seem small, but they were actually huge. They were proof that persistence pays off. They were proof that if you keep showing up, keep trying, keep pushing forward, you will eventually get somewhere. English also taught me about confidence, though this lesson took the longest to learn. For years, even as my English improved, I was terrified to speak. I would practice alone in my room, and I sounded fine. But put me in front of another person, and my mind would go blank. My hands would shake. My voice would come out weak and uncertain. I was so afraid of making mistakes in front of others that I would often just stay quiet. I would let opportunities to practice pass me by because I was too scared to try. I remember one specific moment that forced me to confront this fear. I was at a store, and a tourist asked me for directions in English. She looked at me with hopeful eyes, clearly lost and needing help. I knew the answer. I knew exactly how to get to the place she was looking for. But I was frozen. All I could think about was, what would happen if I said something wrong? What if my pronunciation was bad? What if she did not understand me? So I just shook my head and walked away. I felt terrible for the rest of that day. I had let my fear stop me from helping someone. I had let my fear stop me from using the English I had worked so hard to learn. That moment was a turning point. I realized that being afraid was holding me back more than any grammar mistake ever could. So I made a promise to myself. The next time someone spoke to me in English, I would answer. I would not let fear make my decisions anymore. And when that next opportunity came, I kept my promise. My heart was racing, my voice was shaking, but I spoke. And you know what? The person understood me. They thanked me and went on their way. It was a simple exchange, but it felt like winning a gold medal. I had faced my fear and survived. From that day forward, I started seeking out opportunities to speak English. I joined online conversation groups. I talked to myself while cooking or cleaning. I even started keeping a voice journal, recording myself talking about my day in English. Each time I spoke, I felt a little bit more confident. I started to trust myself. I started to believe that even if I made mistakes, I could still communicate. I could still be understood. This confidence did not just help my English. It helped my entire life. I became more willing to try new things. I became less afraid of failure. I learned that doing something imperfectly is always better than not doing it at all. Another lesson English taught me was about humility. No matter how much I learned, there was always more to discover. Just when I thought I had mastered something, I would encounter a new challenge. I would read a book and find dozens of words I did not know. I would watch a movie and miss jokes or references I did not understand. At first, this was discouraging. I thought, will I ever really know this language? But over time, I came to appreciate this endless journey. I realized that learning never truly ends. There is always room to grow, always room to improve. And that is not a bad thing. That is actually beautiful. This lesson in humility extended beyond English. It taught me to approach life with a student's mindset. In any situation, even if I think I know a lot, there is probably something new to learn. Other people have experiences and knowledge that I do not have. Being humble enough to listen, to ask questions, to admit when I do not know something. These became important values for me. English taught me that saying, "I don't know," is not a weakness. It is actually the first step toward learning. As I continued my English journey, I also learned about the importance of consistency. There were times when I was very motivated and would study for hours every day. But there were also times when life got busy, when I was tired, when I just did not feel like studying. During those times, it would have been easy to take a break. To say, "I'll start again next week," or "I'll study more when I have time." But I learned that consistency matters more than intensity. Studying for 15 minutes every single day is better than studying for 5 hours once a month. So, even on my worst days, I did something in English. Maybe I just listened to one song. Maybe I read one page of a book. Maybe I wrote 3 sentences in my journal. It was not much, but it kept the connection alive. It kept English as part of my daily routine, and those small, consistent efforts added up over time. Looking back, I can see that the real progress came not from the days when I studied for hours, but from the fact that I showed up every single day, even when I did not want to. English taught me that showing up is half the battle. Actually, maybe it is more than half. One of the most surprising lessons English taught me was about cultural understanding. When you learn a language, you do not just learn words. You learn about the people who speak that language. You learn about their culture, their values, their way of seeing the world. Through English, I discovered books, movies, and music from different countries. I learned about holidays I had never heard of. I read stories about people whose lives were completely different from mine. I started to see that there are many ways to live a life, many ways to think about things, many perspectives on what is important or valuable. This made me less judgmental and more curious about others. When I met someone from another country, instead of focusing on our differences, I became interested in learning about their experiences. English gave me a tool to connect with people I never would have been able to talk to otherwise. It broke down walls and built bridges. It made the world feel smaller and more connected. English also taught me about creativity. When I first started learning, I could only use simple sentences to express simple ideas, but as my skills grew, I found I could play with the language. I could make jokes, even if they were not very good ones. I could write stories. I could express complex emotions and thoughts. I discovered that there is an art to using language well, choosing the right word, constructing a sentence in a particular way, using rhythm and flow to make something sound beautiful. This creative aspect of language brought me so much joy. It turned studying from a chore into something I genuinely enjoyed. Through all these years of learning English, the most important lesson has been about self-belief. In the beginning, I did not believe I could do it. I looked at fluent speakers and thought they had something special that I lacked. But as time passed, as I slowly improved, I realized something powerful. I could do hard things. If I could learn English, starting from knowing absolutely nothing, and reaching a point where I could read books, watch movies, and have conversations, then what else could I do? What other challenges could I overcome if I just applied the same persistence, the same patience, the same willingness to make mistakes and keep going? This realization changed how I approached everything in my life. When faced with a difficult task, instead of thinking, "I can't do this," I started thinking, "I can't do this yet." That one word, "yet," makes all the difference. It acknowledges the current difficulty while maintaining hope for future success. It keeps the door open. English taught me to always keep the door open, to always believe that improvement is possible. Now, When I think about my English learning journey, I do not just think about vocabulary and grammar. I think about all the nights I stayed up late studying. I think about the frustration, the confusion, the moments when I wanted to quit, but I also think about the breakthrough moments. The first time I understood a joke in English. The first time I dreamed in English. The first time someone told me they could barely hear my accent. I think about all the people I met because I could speak English, all the opportunities that opened up, all the books I read, the movies I watched, the songs I sang along to. English gave me all of that. But more than that, it gave me a stronger character. It taught me that I am capable of more than I think. It taught me that consistent effort over time creates results. It taught me that fear is just a feeling, and feelings can be faced. It taught me that making mistakes is not something to be ashamed of, but something to embrace as part of learning. It taught me to be humble, to be patient, and to be kind to myself when things get difficult. If you are learning English right now, or any language, I want you to know something. You are not just learning words. You are learning life lessons that will stay with you forever. Every time you struggle with a grammar rule and finally understand it, you are learning persistence. Every time you speak, even though you are nervous, you are building confidence. Every time you study when you are tired, you are developing discipline. These qualities will serve you in everything you do, long after you have finished learning the language. So, embrace the journey. Do not rush it. Do not compare yourself to others who seem to be learning faster. Everyone has their own path, their own pace. Trust that if you keep showing up, keep trying, keep believing in yourself, you will get there. And when you do, you will look back and realize that the struggle was worth it. Not just because you learned English, but because of who you became in the process. That is what English taught me. That is the gift it gave me. And that is the gift it can give you too, if you let it.